Hello, and welcome to 3 Minute History with Mr. Marr. Quick summaries about a range of different history topics. Today we're going to the Migration and Empire unit, and we're having a look at the impact that emigrant Scots had in India in the 1800s and 1900s. The first issue to consider is the economic impact. Unlike other countries, there was not huge numbers of Scots travelled to India for work, certainly not when compared to places such as Australia or Canada. However, some Scots did do this for work. Some professional Scots, such as lawyers, teachers and doctors, found the opportunity to travel and earn more money than they had been in Scotland. However, the main economic factor which drew Scots to India was the chance to trade. Scots wanted a number of the natural products which were grown in India, such as jute and tea. They would be taken back to Europe or Scotland, and they'd be processed and then sold all around Europe, and indeed further than that. One example would be Lipton's teas, set up by Thomas Lipton, who was the son of Irish immigrants and lived in Glasgow, and his products were not only sold around Europe but also in North America. Dundee was especially involved in this trade, as jute from India was brought back and then processed in the city's mills. The biggest company that was involved in sales was undeniably the East India Company, which was not so much a large private business as a government in itself. The East India Company became so powerful it took over the running of much of India, and Scots were right at the heart of this. 1 in 9 civil servants and 1 in 11 soldiers in the East India Company were Scottish. Scottish banks also played a role, loaning the money which was used to fund issues such as railway developments in India. Scots were also heavily involved in politics. Not only were they a key part of the East India Company, including people such as Henry Dundas, but even when the East India Company passed control of India to the British government, and this became known as the British Raj, Scots continued to play important senior roles. The first 3 Governor-Generals, sometimes called Viceroys, who were the people in charge of the country, were Scottish, and this includes Lord Dalhousie. Other Scots found work in the Indian civil service. Indeed, for educated Scots, sending their sons to India to work in the civil service was the key chance of promotion. Scots had an impact on India's culture and society as well. One major way was in terms of religion. Some Scots travelled to India as missionaries. They not only hoped to allow Scots in India to continue practicing their own religion, but they wanted to convert Indians as well. They also had a role in setting up schools, and this was often linked with churches. Very often these schools initially were only for the children of Scottish emigrants, but later they opened to other Indians. The University of Calcutta was also set up with agreement of the Governor-General of the time, Lord Dalhousie, a Scot. Scottish emigrants in India had very mixed relations with native people. There is some examples of positive links, but also many problems as well. Given that many Scots had gone abroad to be involved in trade, this was very beneficial to some of the tribal leaders that became rich as a result of this trade, and they obviously supported links with Scots. Other Scots were involved in marrying Indian women. For example, at the start of the 1800s, around 1/3 of all British men in India were married to local women. However, whilst there therefore are some positive examples, there's also problems. Many Indians understandably resented British and Scottish involvement in their country, and so fought for their freedom. The 1857 Indian Mutiny saw a violent revolt to remove Britain from the country, and Scottish soldiers such as Colin Campbell were involved in stopping this. Other Indians did support the Scots when they played a role in supporting some tribal beliefs which were problematic to them. Sooty and Fuggy, for example, were instances that hurt ordinary Indians, including Indian women, and Scots outlawed this. Religion was a problematic issue. On the one hand, many missionaries did convert some Indians to their cause, but large numbers of Indians who were Muslim or Sikh were understandably offended and outraged at attempts to undermine their religious beliefs.